I'm still reeling months after everything fell apart. My name is Thierry, and until last year I was a content architect in Austin, Texas. I was 44, happily married, or so I thought, to my wife, Odette. We had been together for 15 years, married for 12. No kids by choice. We enjoyed traveling, hiking, and generally just spending time together. I honestly believed we were rock solid. Then came the whispers, the subtle changes. Odette, a veterinarian, started working late more often. She became less affectionate, less interested in our shared hobbies. I chalked it up to stress at work. Her clinic had been bought out by a larger corporation, and she complained about the new management constantly. I tried to be supportive, offering to cook dinner, give her massages, and just listen to her vent. Looking back, the first real red flag was her phone. She'd always been fairly open with it, leaving it around the house, not password protecting everything. Suddenly, it was glued to her hand. She'd take it into the bathroom, even for a quick shower. She changed her password, which she said was for security reasons because of some new company policy. I didn't push it, but it felt strange. One evening, I was working from home, and Odette had gone to her clinic. I needed to print something and went to her office, where our printer was located. Her computer was on and an email was open on the screen. It wasn't addressed to her, but the subject line caught my eye. "Thinking of you." My heart pounded in my chest. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't resist. I clicked on the email. It was from someone named Barnaby. The content was sickeningly sweet, filled with promises of love and longing. He wrote about how much he missed her, how he couldn't wait to see her again. There were details in the email, specific things that made it clear this was a romantic relationship. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My vision blurred and I stumbled backward, knocking over a stack of books. The sound startled me, and I quickly closed the email, trying to erase any trace of my intrusion. But the image of those words, Barnaby's words, was burned into my brain. I spent the rest of the day in a daze. I couldn't concentrate on work. I kept replaying the email in my head, trying to make sense of it. Was this real? Was Odette really having an affair? I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I needed to be calm to gather more information. The next morning, I decided to play detective. I waited until Odette left for work and then went back to her office. This time, I was determined to find more evidence. I knew it was a violation of her privacy, but I felt like I had no choice. I needed to know the truth. I started by checking her sent emails. I found a whole string of messages between her and Barnaby, each one more explicit than the last. They talked about their feelings for each other, their secret meetings, their plans for the future. It was all there in black and white. I discovered that Barnaby was a new surgeon at her clinic. He had recently transferred from another state, and Odette had been assigned to mentor him. That's how they met, how their affair began. The more I read, the angrier I became. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and utterly heartbroken. How could Odette do this to me? How could she lie to me for so long? I printed out all the emails, every single one. I wanted to have them as proof, as a reminder of her betrayal. Then I waited for her to come home. When Odette walked through the door that evening, I tried to act normal. I greeted her with a kiss, asked her about her day. She seemed tired, distracted. She barely made eye contact with me. How was work? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. It was fine, she said, shrugging. Busy as usual. Barnaby must be keeping you on your toes, I said, the words dripping with sarcasm. Odette froze. Her eyes widened and she stared at me in disbelief. What are you talking about? She stammered. I pulled out the stack of emails and threw them on the table in front of her. I know about you and Barnaby, I said, my voice shaking with anger. I read your emails. I know everything. Odette's face paled. She didn't say anything for a long moment, just stared at the emails as if they were venomous snakes. Thierry, she began, but I cut her off. Don't even try to deny it, I said. I have proof. I saw the emails. I know what you've been doing behind my back. Tears welled up in her eyes. It just happened, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't mean for it to happen. What does that even mean? I shouted. You didn't mean for it to happen. You were having an affair, Odette. You were betraying me. How could you do this to me? I was unhappy, she said, her voice rising. You weren't paying attention to me. You were always working. I felt neglected. That's bullshit, I yelled. I was working to provide for us. I was trying to make our lives better, and this is how you repay me. By sleeping with another man. We argued for hours that night. She tried to justify her actions to blame me for her affair, but I wasn't buying it. I knew the truth. She had made a choice, a conscious decision to betray me, and I couldn't forgive her. The next day I moved out. I couldn't stay in the same house with her knowing what she had done. I found a small apartment downtown and started the process of filing for divorce. The divorce was messy, as you might expect. Odette tried to paint me as controlling and emotionally abusive, but I had the emails, the proof of her affair. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor, granting me a generous settlement. But the financial settlement didn't ease the pain. I was still heartbroken, still angry, still struggling to understand why Odette had betrayed me. I went through a period of intense depression, isolating myself from friends and family. I lost weight, couldn't sleep, and had no interest in anything. One evening, a few weeks after the divorce was finalized, I received a phone call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer it, but something told me I should. "Hello," I said. "Is this Thierry?" A woman's voice asked. "Yes, it is," I replied. "My name is Annalise," she said. "I'm Barnaby's wife." My heart skipped a beat. Barnaby's wife. What did she want? "I know about the affair," she said, her voice trembling. "I found out a few weeks ago. I'm so sorry for what happened." I didn't say anything, just listened. "Barnaby has a history," she continued. "He's done this before. He's a serial cheater. I had no idea when I married him." She went on to tell me about Barnaby's past affairs, his lies, his manipulation. It was a pattern, a cycle of betrayal that he had repeated throughout his life. "I just wanted you to know that you're not alone," she said, "and that it wasn't your fault. Barnaby is the problem, not you." Her words were strangely comforting. It was good to know that I wasn't crazy, that Odette wasn't the only victim of Barnaby's deceit. Annalise and I talked for a long time that night. We shared our stories, our pain, our anger. We found solace in each other's shared experience. Over the next few weeks, Annalise and I became close friends. We met for coffee, went for walks, and talked on the phone almost every day. We supported each other through the difficult process of healing and moving on. One day, Annalise told me that she was planning to expose Barnaby's behavior to the hospital board. She had gathered evidence of his affairs, his lies, and his unethical conduct. She wanted to make sure he couldn't hurt anyone else. I offered to help her in any way I could. I provided her with the emails I had found on Odette's computer, as well as a written statement detailing my experience. Annalise presented her evidence to the hospital board, and they launched an investigation. Barnaby was suspended from his position, and eventually he was fired. His career was ruined, his reputation tarnished. Odette was also affected by the scandal. Her clinic lost several clients, and her reputation as a veterinarian suffered. She was ostracized by her colleagues and forced to resign from her position. I didn't feel any satisfaction in their downfall. I didn't want them to suffer. I just wanted to move on with my life. With Annalise's help, I started to heal. I went back to therapy, reconnected with friends and family, and started pursuing my hobbies again. I even started dating. It wasn't easy. There were days when I still felt angry, sad, and betrayed. But I learned to cope with those feelings, to accept what had happened, and to move forward. I never spoke to Odette again. I didn't want to. I had nothing to say to her. But one day, about a year after the divorce, I received a letter from her. It was a handwritten letter, filled with apologies and remorse. She admitted that she had made a terrible mistake, that she had hurt me deeply, and that she was truly sorry. She also told me that she had been diagnosed with a serious illness. She was undergoing treatment, but her prognosis was uncertain. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore the letter, to pretend that it didn't exist. But another part of me felt a flicker of compassion for her. I thought about Annalise, about how we had found solace in each other's shared pain. I realized that holding onto anger and resentment would only hurt me in the long run. So I decided to write back to Odette. I told her that I forgave her, not for her sake, but for my own. I told her that I hoped she would find peace and that I wished her well. I don't know if she ever received my letter. I never heard from her again. But I know that I did the right thing. I let go of the anger, the resentment, and the pain. I forgave Odette, and in doing so, I freed myself. I'm still friends with Annalise. We often talk about our experiences, and we support each other in our journeys. We both found love again, and we are both happy. The whole experience changed me. It made me stronger, more resilient, and more compassionate. I learned that betrayal can be a devastating experience, but it doesn't have to define you. You can heal, you can move on, and you can find happiness again. I'm sharing my story because I know there are others out there who have gone through similar experiences. I want them to know that they are not alone and that there is hope for the future. Betrayal cuts deep, but it doesn't have to break you. It can make you stronger. It can make you more compassionate. It can make you a better person. I found this out the hard way, but I wouldn't trade the lessons I learned for anything.